Hello friends and welcome to Butterfly Meadows Homestead. I'm Dorinda. Today we are going to talk about three things. Number one, the customer service that I received when I had to reach out to the KBS customer service. Number two, how to clean and care for your bread machine, whether it be a KBS bread machine or any other brand. And number three, we are going to make chocolate bread in the bread machine. So your KBS bread machine should have came with a manual. Usually in any manual that comes with a small appliance, there will be a way to contact customer service. On the back, it tells you that it has a 1-year limited warranty, and it says, please contact our customer service email, john@kbsmbj.com, for instructions on the repair or replacement of appliances if covered defect happens within the 1-year period. It just seemed a little odd to me that the customer service email is john@kbsmbj. There are no phone numbers in this book or that I could find. Nevertheless, I reached out to them. Now, before I tell you my experience, I want to tell you why I reached out to them. My KBS bread machine is about 9 or so months old. You can see the unboxing video that I made here of when I received my KBS bread machine, and I use it, I wouldn't say daily, but I use this machine 3 to 4 times a week on a normal basis. There are times when I may not use it that often because there's a lot of things going on or whatever, but for the most part, I am using this machine every other day or so, and sometimes every day. I had to reach out to them because the first thing I noticed was that the bottom of my bread machine, when I would take my pan out, was beginning to have a lot of charcoal residue, baked, burnt residue in the bottom of it. This residue kept being there. I would clean it out and then it would be there again. And so one day, as I took out the bread out of my bread pan, I noticed all of this gunk here in the bottom of my bread pan. And I'm going to get a close-up of this, and I'll put it over here on the side so you can see what I'm talking about. It looks like a dark grayish green hardened Play-Doh is what it really looks like. Well, when I saw that, I knew what the problem was. This bread pan was leaking. That's why I was having all that residue inside of the machine, is because this pan was leaking. That was a problem because I make a lot of bread and this is a lot of leakage. I was so disappointed on so many levels because, one, I have recommended this machine to many, and many of you have purchased the machine because I purchased the machine and liked how it baked, and I just felt so bad. I decided to go ahead and email the KBS customer service. I emailed them and I told them that my bread pan was leaking and that I'd only had my machine for about 9 months. I emailed them at like almost 10 o'clock, 9:30, after 9:30 one night is when I sent the email. To my surprise, they answered me within like 30 minutes. I got a reply. And I'm going to call him John. Of course, I have no idea who this person was, whether it was male or female. It was just a response. They did not give a name. But since the email address is john@kbsmbj.com, I'll call him John. So John replies to me, and he said that he was so very sorry that I was having trouble with this malfunction with my machine. And he asked for the order number because I told him I had ordered it off of Amazon. He asked for the order number and my mailing address so they could send me a new pan. And so I gave him my mailing address and my order number off of Amazon and sent that back to him. He replied again very quickly and thanked me and sent a screenshot from Amazon saying that my bread pan had been ordered and was on the way and what day I could expect it to be delivered. The only thing that made me a little uncomfortable, he asked me to give them a 5-star review on Amazon. And really, I thought to myself, why haven't I done that already? But I hadn't. So he did send a link. Now this made me nervous because sometimes scammers will do this. So you got to be careful. And when he asked me for a 5-star review, it may be uneasy, and that's why. But I went ahead and I gave them a 5-star review because I do like the KBS bread machine, and the customer service I was receiving was wonderful. They sent me a brand new bread pan and paddle. So thumbs up on the customer service for the KBS bread machine. So if you have any problems, then by all means, reach out to them. I wanted to share that experience because it was a positive experience, and I know many of you might be thinking about purchasing the KBS. I think I even might have had someone ask me, one of the viewers might have asked me in a comment about the customer service. At that time, I didn't know anything about the customer service for the KBS bread machine. So that was my only experience. I just wanted to share it. If you have your manual, you will have the address in there. Just be aware that they are in China. So it's about, for me here in Eastern United States, it's about a 13-hour difference of my time and their time. So it's nighttime over there now. But tonight it will be morning over there. So if you do email them, just be aware of that. The next thing I want to talk about is how to clean and care for your bread pan. So this is the old bread pan, the one that is leaking. And I wanted to use it for a demonstration as to what not to do. When you bake a loaf of bread, if you did not take the paddle out before the third ferment and the bake, when you take your bread out of the machine, you're most likely going to have a clump of bread around the paddle, and the paddle will kind of be stuck in the pan. So what you don't want to do is reach in there and rip that paddle out with all that stuck on bread. But what you do want to do is to pour some warm water into the pan, up over the paddle, and let it soak until all of that is softened. Because there is a little seal down in your pan where this stem comes up through the pan. You don't want to damage that. And if you rip off dry, crusty bread and the paddle and all, you could damage that. So the best thing to do is soak it in some warm soapy water, then remove the paddle. Of course, it is non-stick, so don't ever use metal or anything real abrasive inside your bread pan or on your mixing paddle, because you don't want to scratch the non-stick coating that is in your bread machine. Another thing you want to do is you always want to oil the stem and oil the inside of your mixing paddle so that it comes on and off easily. Because like right now, I didn't clean this on purpose because I wanted to use it for an example. So there's dried baked on dough up in there, and this doesn't want to come off easily. So you want to clean it. You want to make sure you clean it. I actually use a little brush that came with a bottle brush to clean the inside of mine. And then whenever I am baking, I always make sure I oil the stem and put a little oil up inside of the paddle so that it's easy to take off. And sometimes if your paddle comes off really easy, sometimes the paddle will come off with the bread when you take the bread out, and you'll have to fish this out. And that's when you need to be careful not to scratch it. Don't use something metal that is going to cause you to scratch your little paddle, because anytime you scratch it, then it's going to stick and you're going to have a problem from there on out. You don't want to put this in the dishwasher. It does not require that much washing. Usually all I do is I fill it up with water to make sure I soak off any of the baked on breadcrumbs, and then I rinse it out and just wipe it out. I don't put soap or anything abrasive inside of the pan because I don't want to damage the nonstick coating. We also want to talk about how to care for the actual machine itself. Before you start cleaning your bread machine, unplug it. Do not do this with it plugged up, because it can start so easy just with the touch of a button. So please make sure you unplug your machine. But whatever your bread machine is, you're going to have to do two things to keep it clean. You're going to have to keep the inside clean and the outside if you want it to look nice. Now, cleaning the outside, we'll go over that first. I recommend using a paper towel and just some white vinegar. White vinegar, I like to use in my home, I like to use cleaners that are not toxic and harsh chemicals. So I use white vinegar a lot. And white vinegar is great for windows, stainless steel, anything like that, because it doesn't streak, it gets rid of grease, and it's just a really good cleaner. And so what I usually do is I will just wipe down the outside with a paper towel that I have dampened with the vinegar. And we can wipe the top of the machine, all the surfaces, anywhere there might be any kind of residue, because things do get dirty as we use them. So after you wipe it down, then you're either going to want to take a dry paper towel or some kind of a dry cloth and dry any of the vinegar that was left behind off of the machine, and you will notice it just starts to shine and look like new. So there we have cleaned the outside of our bread machine. Now hopefully, as you can see, because my bread pan was leaking, you can see there's a lot of crumbs and stuff down in here on the inside of my machine. There's some greasy residue like gets on any oven here on the sides. And I'm going to use this same cloth that I used to wipe the outside that has the vinegar on it. First, I'm going to clean the little window because it's always good to be able to see into the machine. And then I'm going to carefully wipe the top. Be careful not to break your lid on your bread machine. So don't push really hard. What I do is I take this cloth and I just wipe the inside. The vinegar will cut the grease. Now, there'll still be some signs of it there, just like in an oven. But I am just going to wipe the inside cavity of the machine and get it as clean as I can. When I have done all I can do with that, I'm going to take another cloth. This is a microfiber cloth. I'm going to dip it in some warm soapy water. And I'm just going to keep wiping down in here until I get as much of that residue out as I can, those crumbs and things. Be very careful not to damage anything, because this is where all the work happens, is right here on this little gear. That's what mixes your bread. Now mine would not be near as dirty as it is if my pan had not been leaking. But because it has been leaking, then I've got that residue in there. Be careful with your element. We don't want to damage it. And just wipe all the surfaces. And now we have cleaned the inside of our bread machine. So we're going to be making chocolate sandwich bread here in the bread machine with my new bread pan that KBS customer service sent me when I emailed them. This bread is chocolate. It is just ever so slightly sweet, and it can be used for toast or for sandwiches. Surprisingly, it makes great sandwiches. And then if you want a little something sweet, or you're a chocolate lover like me, then it makes wonderful toast. The recipe will be in the description below, and I'm going to show you how to make it right here really quick. So the first thing that we are going to need is 1 cup of milk, and we need 1 egg. And I'm going to show you what I do just to make things mix together a little better. We're going to use the whole egg in this recipe. I usually crack the egg into my milk and just stir it up a little bit, just to make sure that, whoops, I didn't mean to do, that's okay, I washed that eggshell. Just to make sure everything gets mixed together good, I'm going to crack the egg in there and then just stir it up, break the yolk and stir it up into the milk. And I am using whole milk in this recipe. So I stirred that in really well, And now we're just going to pour the milk with the egg into the bread pan. We are going to add to this 1/2 of a cup of butter, and I melted mine or softened mine in the microwave. And you could use oil if you wanted to, but I think the butter gives this bread a really good taste. We also want to add a 1 teaspoon of salt. And we are going to add a half a cup of white sugar. And we are going to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla. I'm using clear vanilla. Just so you know, most of the time, the cap of your vanilla is a teaspoon. Usually works out that way. Now we're going to add our flour. Move this out of the way. And I have my flour here in a bucket, so we want 3 cups of bread flour. We are going to add 1/4 of a cup of cocoa powder. And we are going to add 2 1/4 teaspoons of active yeast. Now we're going to put our bread pan in our machine. Lock it in. We are going to choose option 1, the 2-pound loaf in medium crust color, and hit start. Now, like I always say, go ahead and open your machine and look at your dough as it starts to mix and make sure that it is not too wet or not too dry. So we're going to give that about 3 or 4 minutes to mix, and then we'll check on it again. So there is our chocolatey bread dough ball, looking pretty good. So we're just going to let the machine do its thing. When there is about 1 hour and 45 minutes left on this timer, I know from experience on the setting that I have it on that is the beginning of my 3rd ferment, and I will be coming and taking the paddle out of the machine. So it is time to take our paddle out. Let's get down in here. Got it out. I always like to reform my dough ball back nice shape once I do that, so that the bread doesn't come out lopsided. But it looks beautiful. It's my favorite time. Time to take the bread out of the bread machine. Looks beautiful. Ooh, smells good too. All right, we're just gonna let this cool, and then we'll come back and slice it. Wow, just look at this beautiful chocolate bread. It's soft. If you like these videos and these kinds of videos, please consider subscribing to my channel and share the video with your friends. Leave me a comment below if you try this bread. Tell me how it turned out. And if you have any questions, put it in the comments, and I do my best to get back to answering everyone's questions. God bless. Bye-bye.